I never liked homework. For kids like me, homework is just torture. Instead of playing whatever we want, we had to lock ourselves and study till our minds blow. I used to skip classes by going to the toilet. The class that I hated the most was math. Math was never an easy subject. Almost 99% of the students in my school agree that math is hard. Almost. One day, our math teacher died suddenly from a heart attack. Some of the students were sad because he used to make math fun for them. For 2 weeks, we had to go through math class with substitute teachers. That is, until the third week. As I thought this was going to be one usual boring math class, I soon had second thoughts as a man dressed in a black suit stepped into our class. The principal followed behind him, and once they were both inside our class, he introduced Mr. Hawkins, our new math teacher. I thought that things were going to get serious from now on. For the first few weeks of his teaching, I slowly began to love math. He makes math fun. That's what the other kids say. Everything seems to be fun with Mr. Hawkins, until he gave us homework. For the following weeks, math class started to become a torture chamber. At least, that's how we see it as kids. Mr. Hawkins started to give us more and more homework every day, and when students pleaded to him to give them less homework, he just ignored them. I started to hate math class, but it just got worse from there. You see, Mr. Hawkins isn't some typical normal teacher. He has a really bad temper from time to time, and he gets really mad when a student doesn't do his homework. I remember walking down the hallway with my friends, ready to go home after doing a science project. It was very late in the night, so I hurried myself to get out of school. As I passed by math class, I heard muffles of a boy. I stopped dead in my tracks. Curiosity soon got to me, and as I peeked through the keyhole of the door, I saw it. A boy was tied to a chair with tapes. His mouth was taped shut. He seemed to notice me and struggled even more to get loose. But as he did so, a familiar voice said, "Shh." I thought for a while, and soon realized that it was Mr. Hawkins. But what was he doing in a place like this, in the middle of the night? I decided to peek through the keyhole once again, to find out more. But Mr. Hawkins' eye was right there, staring back at me. I heard him say, "Hello, care to join a little party?" "No thanks," I said, and quickly ran out of the school. I didn't sleep well that night. The next day, after I saw the disturbing scene, I began to ask myself if I should call the police. I quickly shoved it aside, not wanting to get myself into any sort of trouble. I went to school as usual, but once I walked through the front door of the school, the atmosphere felt a bit odd. There was a foul smell in the school, but nobody seemed to care about it. When it was math class, I got a bit worried about what I saw yesterday, and I thought of the boy whose mouth was taped shut. The thought gave me goosebumps, and I shivered. We waited for a while, and a substitute teacher came in. All the students in my class were confused, but we just kept silent. The substitute teacher told us that Mr. Hawkins didn't feel well. She proceeded to tell us that Mr. Hawkins gave all of us homework. As she passed out the homework, I took one look at it and put it in my backpack. The following day, Mr. Hawkins was back to teach us math. After teaching us some areas and perimeters, he asked us to give him the homework that he gave us yesterday. I froze. I didn't do the homework. I didn't want to be embarrassed in front of my friends in class. I shook my head in frustration as Mr. Hawkins told us to line up and carry the papers. When it was my turn, I simply said that I forgot to bring them to school. I expected him to be angry and mean when he heard this, but he calmly said, "Okay, but remember to bring it tomorrow." I said I will, and returned to my seat. After school, everybody was rushing, pushing each other to get the heck out of school. I wanted to run too, but I was stopped as a hand grabbed my shoulder. It was Mr. Hawkins. He told me to come to his office for a little talk. I was nervous. I didn't know what to do, so I ended up following him to his office. When I got to his office, he asked me to give him my backpack. I asked him why, but he just said, "Give it to me." The tone in his voice got more persistent, as he wanted my backpack for something. I finally said no, and that was the breaking point. He pushed me roughly, and my head hit the table, and I fell unconscious. I woke up in a small black room with a candle lit in front of me. I blinked my eyes and soon got my senses back together. I was shocked to find that I wasn't the only one in this room. There were 5 more students, 4 boys, 1 girl. They were all tied onto chairs, and their mouth was sealed shut. I tried to move, but couldn't because I was tied as well. I tried to speak, but my mouth was taped. I started squirming, and that's when Mr. Hawkins came into the room. There were papers in his right hand, a hammer in the other. My eyes were wide open, shocked with horror. He walked past the other kids and stood in front of me. He squatted down and showed me the papers. I soon realized that it was mine. Mr. Hawkins wanted my backpack because he knew I was lying. He said, "I know you didn't do your homework, so now you're going to see what happens when my students don't do my homework." He stood up and walked to one of the boys to my right. "You see this? This is a face of despair." He looked down on him and asked him, "Any last words?" And before I knew it, he was hammering the boy's face. Blood splattered on Mr. Hawkins' shirt. "You stained my shirt, boy. You're going to regret this." As he said this, he took a knife from his pocket and stuck it in the boy's head. He kept stabbing the boy in the head till he was dead. He then proceeded to do the same with the other 4 kids. They all squirmed trying to break free. I watched every single one of them get killed by this psychotic man. I cried, knowing that my life is going to end soon in the hands of this psychopath. Mr. Hawkins looked at me and removed the tape that was covering my mouth. I gagged and almost felt like vomiting. He looked at me in the eye and said, "You know, I always felt something special about you." I looked at him with sobbing eyes. He threw the knife and hammer away. I thought that I would be set free from this madness, but I was wrong. As I was about to calm myself down, Mr. Hawkins began to strangle me with his bare hands. I could barely breathe. I knew this was the end, but no. He stopped strangling me after 20 seconds. He then said, "I had fun with you." He then looked around and whispered in my ear, "I'm going to tell you a secret. Do you know why you are here? Why you are with the other 5 kids?" I merely shook my head. "It's because you and the other 5, you all didn't do my homework. I had no choice but to do this." I kept silent. I had the ability to speak, but I fear of what's to come if I spoke. "Remember that boy you saw that night? Well, he didn't do his homework as well." As he said this, he reached for something in his bag and pulled out a decaying head. This is what happens to those who don't do my homework. He then proceeded to pick up the hammer on the floor and took a nail from a toolbox. I remember his last words, "Don't ever not do my homework," as he took the nail close to my face and started hammering it down my throat.